about this game, aside from it being in the same series as Steins Gate, which of course is my favorite visual novel. Also probably my favorite anime, but I don't know. Possibly. But here we go. Chaos Trout. I haven't looked ahead or anything about this game. I know nothing. I know nothing about this game apart from the positive and negative illusions, which I didn't know how to use them until I did L2 and R2 accidentally last time. So, the only thing I know is that it changes the outcome if you use the positive and negative things. Gotta go back to do my protagonist voice for this one. Okay, I'm right here. Yes. I don't know who keeps emailing me, but they better stop. He seemed really disappointed.
なんだそりゃ。単に血は喧嘩かなんかで騒ぎになったんじゃねえの?
Would he call reinforcements just for that? And today's the 29th, you know.
だから気にしすぎだって言ってるでしょ?
Kurusu seemed upset. She glanced over at the love hotels around her in disgust.
早く学校に戻りましょう。学生がいていい場所じゃない。監視カメラに映っているのが問題になったらどうするの?
She probably didn't want to get involved. Ever since the rebuilding, there had been more cameras around Shibuya than ever before, even around the love hotels. In our school uniforms, we probably stand out. Kurusu motioned for us to go home. And then... I saw something in the viewfinder. On the 3rd floor of the Love Hotel, the windows in one of the rooms facing the alley were open. The windows must have been all the way open because the curtains were fluttering out. Hey, you normally don't open windows in a place like this, do you? I asked Ito as I looked up at them.
まあそうなんじゃねえの? 使ったことなんかねえからわかんねえけど。
Oh. Ito followed my gaze and saw it for himself. It felt suspicious. I'd never been to a love hotel either, so I didn't know. But normally you'd keep the windows shut, right? You wouldn't want people to be seeing or hearing what you were doing. And then suddenly I heard a sound from somewhere. It was a calming song with a simple melody. I took a closer listen. Was it a music box? It definitely was. It was coming from the room with the open windows. It sounded like it was inviting us in. What was going on? I looked around. The building across from the open window was another love hotel, but it had no windows on that side. I couldn't look into the building like I'd done with the karaoke box last week. And I certainly couldn't climb my way up.
ちょっと何考えてるの?
I must have had a pensive look on my face because Kurusu leaned to me and asked. Pardon me. If we can't get inside without them finding us... I looked over at the parking meters. There's still only the one car. Okay. There should be a rear entrance somewhere, so let's do it before the police backup gets here. Ito, go around from that side.
Oh.
I'll take this side. Ow.
ちょっとタクル、こっち見なさい。
Sorry. I began to go around the building, not waiting for Ito's answer, but Kurusu grabbed my arm.
ダメ。こんなの部活の範疇じゃないでしょ。私の言うことが聞けないの？
Crap. She was just a millimeter short of making that face again.
しかもここ、いかがわしいホテルでしょう。それに、もし妙なことに巻き込まれたらどうするの？
I knew all that. But I didn't want to give up. This might be my chance to get a real scoop.
定額にでもなったらどうするつもり？姉として弟を危険な目に遭わせるわけにはいかないの。
Sister? We're not actually family, are we? Are we? Instantly, Kurusu grabbed me by the collar with an incredible force and brought her face so close to me that our foreheads touched. I could tell her cheeks were flushed. There was a small, wordless growl from within her throat, and her arms were shaking a little as she held me. What was she trying to say? No, I knew what she was trying to say. But Kurusu didn't say it. Kurusu wasn't the sort of awful person who'd bring up the distant past and try to win an argument. And anyway, that was all over now. It wasn't either of our faults. We're gonna find out as the story progresses. Oh, hello there. Ow. Suddenly, Sarika ran over and tackled Kurusu. The momentum slammed both of them into the ground.
ちょっとセリカ、何して？喧嘩はダメだよ、のんちゃん。タク、5人でみんな仲良くが新聞部のモットーでしょ？
I guess so. That was never our motto. I was right.
しんちゃんに止めなきゃダメじゃん。
Excuse me.
いや、つうかどこ行ってたんだ
？One second.
ああ、そうだ。喧嘩してる場合じゃないんだよ、タク。
Hello, Fry. What's up, buddy? It's my cat. She suddenly hopped up like a cheap toy.
裏のドア開いてる。
Oh. What?
喉乾いて自販機なくてホテルの中ならあるだろうと思って裏のドア見つけて開けて。
Back door open. Oh.
中入って自販機やってさすが妖精のダンスじゃん、やるじゃんって思って買って一気飲みしてたらあれって。
Okay.
んだよそれ。
A lot of words. You always get ahead of yourself.
タク、どうするの
I could tell that Kurusu was glaring at me. But she didn't say anything. She couldn't say anything. Let's go together. If we pretend to be a couple, we might be able to fool them if it comes to that.
Okay.
Okay. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, Sarika beckoned me to follow her. I did. I didn't say it, but in my heart I apologized to Kurusu as I went. Of course she couldn't hear me, so she didn't say anything.
階段向こうなんだけどな。
We went inside the hotel from the rear entrance and hid behind the corner that led to the lobby. This was my first time inside a love hotel. It was a lot less gaudy than I'd expected. The name was false advertising. There were no fairies and no one was dancing. Maybe the quiet atmosphere was a selling point? But...
ですから人を早くよこしてください。いや、それは新庄さんに聞いてください。
Huh. The quiet was ruined by the sound of a police officer screaming into his phone. He was either confused or just excited, because he kept saying the same things over and over again. Something had happened after all. And something bad enough that he needed backup. Oh no. That's my microphone drooping a little bit. This was my chance. If we could get to the scene before the place was overflowing with cops, we might be able to find an unexpected scoop.
はい、それは間違いありません。確認しました。ですがこちらでは判断が。いえ、ですからそういう状態じゃないんです。
Damn it. That cop was in the way. Sure would be nice to see him, but I can't see anything because I'm just in the hallway. Whether we took to the stairs or the elevator, we needed to go through the lobby to get to them.
行くよ。
Huh?
早く。
Wait! Serica took me by the arm as if we were a couple and entered the lobby without trying to hide at all. Hey, come on! She ignored me and walked straight for the stairs.
Oi!
The cop must have seen us because he yelled at us from behind. Shit. He probably hadn't seen our faces. Should we run? No, that would just make us look suspicious.
部屋から出るなと言っているだろう。はい。いえ、すいません、大丈夫です。それより早く応援を。
He started to mumble into the phone. We crossed the lobby without looking back. Don't do anything too crazy.
でもタクの言った通りだったじゃん。ごまかせたごまかせた。
That scared me. That was a close call. My heart was pounding so loud that the noise was making me sick. Could he not tell that we were high school students? No. Even if he only saw us from behind, he'd be able to tell by our uniforms. Why didn't he arrest us? Maybe he was panicking so much the thought never occurred to him.
でとはどうしようか。
Serica let go of my arm and turned toward me. That's right. Now wasn't the time to be thinking about other things. We don't know whether or not that room on the 3rd floor is what we're after, but we should start there. If that doesn't work, we try other places. Once the police backup arrives, we leave. But from the way that officer was acting, something was definitely up. We need to get the photos before we go.
Okay.
Oh, she's adorable. I like her a lot. Pardon me again. It was quiet. The policeman's voice was still drifting up the stairs, but it only made the quiet seem more oppressive. Just like he'd said, the customers had probably been told not to leave their rooms. It was too late for it to matter now, but I was starting to feel a little scared. Come to think of it, if something had happened, maybe the killer was still here.
そういえばタク、まだのんちゃんと喧嘩しちゃってるんだね。
Serica's voice was relaxed. I was grateful. I'd take any opportunity to relieve this tension. It wasn't really a fight. No, maybe it was.
でもまだクルスって呼んでるんでしょ。気持ちはわかるけど、なんとかならないかな。
Until half a year ago, I'd called her Nono, her first name. After the incident that caused me to leave the dorm, I'd never call her that again. As long as I kept calling her Kurusu, she'd keep being mad at me. It must have been hurting some important part of her.
Taku.
Oh. The next thing I knew, we were on the 3rd floor. Sarika had gotten ahead of me at some point, was poking her head around the corner and into the hallway.
誰もいないみたい。
Good. I took out my phone and got ready to record. Sorry, I'm having a problem with my throat today. As soon as I went into the 3rd floor hallway, I found myself holding my breath. My heart was pounding even louder than when the cop yelled at us. I tried to control myself and look down the corridor. The rooms must have been very big because the gap between the doors was large. This floor was red, sinking back into the hallway stretched away. Sinking into the black hall as the hallway stretched away. Pardon me. Fudge. I could hear the unpleasant sound of blowing air. They must have had the air conditioning on. There were no windows. There wasn't a lot of light, so the hallway looked pretty creepy. But there was nothing out of the ordinary about it otherwise. But still, it was strange. The air felt solid. It felt like someone would jump from the shadows at the second you let your guard down, or perhaps there were traps scattered everywhere along the floor. For a second, the floor seemed to be stained with blood, but I shook that image out of my mind. What was this? It was like the fear you feel in darkness at night. Was it just because there was so little light? No, it was worse than that. It felt like someone was watching me and enjoying my unease. It was like they were peering deep into my heart.
Taku?
I almost jumped off the ground with a start.
どうしたの?
Don't just talk to me like that. You scared the hell out of me. It's nothing. Hey, isn't this kind of weird? I gestured with my head down the hallway. Sarika looked past me into the darkness.
そりゃ暗いからなんか不気味だけど、雰囲気作りとかじゃないの?
Was it? Was that all? Was I being too sensitive? I tried flipping the light switch on the wall next to me, but nothing happened. Maybe the bulbs were burnt out. Or maybe it wasn't a switch for this hallway at all. Damn it. This wasn't 1407 or something. That's a reference to 1408, the hotel, or the room book, I believe. Yeah, the book by Stephen King. It's Stephen King in the book, but... Okay, sorry. 1408 was the name of the book and movie. I turned around. The only person there was Sarika. No one else was looking at me. I took some time to make sure of it before I spoke. Let's go. Sarika nodded cheerfully and stayed behind me as we walked deeper into the hallway. I remember the location of the window I'd seen outside. It was probably deeper in the hall, the furthest one back, or the one before it. It's probably one of those two. I walked as silently as I could down the long hallway, toward the last rooms on the left side. With every step I took, I could feel the sensation of the hallway through the bottom of my heels. Hallway floor, damn it. It was like I was being forced to think about the nerves that I had never used. My body felt very tense. I didn't see any cops in the hallway. Usually, they'd at least have one person here at the scene. Was this the wrong floor? We reached the second to last door. Room 306. I'm not going to choose either. I'm just going to have it be like regular. I listened carefully, but didn't hear anything revealing. Just the quiet rumble of the air conditioner.
覗き穴とかないの?
Come on. This is a love hotel.
ああ、そっか。
Hey, what are you...
ノック。
You can't... What if someone really answered the door? Wait! There was a loud sound. I quickly glanced around to see if anyone heard what Serica did.
開かないね。鍵をこっそり借りてくればよかったかな。
Ow. There was no answer from inside. No one was there, probably.
タク? どうしたの?
No, never mind. Damn it. It felt kind of ridiculous for me to be so serious. The police aren't here either. Maybe it's not this floor. I flinched back at the sudden noise. Was that the sound of breaking glass? It was from the next room over, right? She was clinging to my back in surprise with her hands on my shoulders.
多分奥でしょ?
Serica pointed to the next room. We stood there for a moment. The violent sound must have scared her, because Serica's easygoing mood had totally vanished. But we waited a while, and nothing more happened. There were no voices or sounds of struggle. The hallway was the same as ever. But was I imagining it? Or was the hall a little darker than before? Should we go back? Serica didn't answer my question. She didn't seem afraid, but she had a serious look on her face as she stared down the hallway. Maybe something had happened, and the killer was still there? No, wait. I needed to think about this rationally. There was an officer on the first floor who'd called for backup. Usually, when a call came in, the police never came there alone. There was always more than one. I'd found that out for myself during my reporting, so I was sure of it. So there had to be another officer at the scene. The killer couldn't just be hiding there. If there was any chance of that, the cop wouldn't have just told us to go back to our rooms. Did the killer break the glass during a struggle? No. That didn't make sense either. If there was any chance of them being able to do that, would that officer have gone downstairs? He'd probably gone down there to tell the front desk not to let anyone else in. Damn it. I had no proof. But it should be okay. More than anything, I hadn't taken any photos yet. What? I jumped literally when I heard the sudden sound. It was a very strange sound, one that didn't belong here at all. I looked and saw that Serica had gotten so nervous she'd taken out her Garo Froggy Garo strap and started to play with it. She probably didn't even know what she was doing. I softly poked her with my elbow. I motioned for her to keep quiet. She seemed confused, but then she realized what she was doing and quickly put the strap back in her pocket. Sorry. As soon as she was done, I looked down the hall once more, all the way to the front of the room. We should head there. I tried to steel myself, then checked over my shoulder once more to make sure no one was there. I started to walk forward, very carefully. I was afraid of making even the slightest sound. Serica followed me wordlessly, with her hand on my shoulder. I grabbed her hand with my free hand. The other was holding my smartphone. Shoot. She squeezed it tight. The feeling of her fingers kept me strong as I walked forward. The next room. Room 305. The room at the far end of the hallway. Just like room 306, it had a plain old door, but it felt like it was exuding an intense pressure.
ここからだよね。
She was asking about the sound. I think so. I answered, despite not having any proof at all. We waited, but still heard nothing. I looked around once more to make sure no one was there, then put my ear up against the door. And then I heard a small sound. This is actually intense. I'm being quiet because this is actually how I'm feeling. Jeez, Christmas. It was the sound that I'd heard outside, the sound from the windows, like a music box playing. It was relaxed and peaceful, even if we weren't, and played the same tune over and over. This is the room, the one with the windows. Serica was looking at me.
開く?
No, that's... I hesitated, but she put her hand on the doorknob.
ダメ.
She seemed relieved, but a little upset. I knew exactly how she felt. I felt the same way. I moved away from the door. I would have liked to take some photos before I left, but... Huh?
今、鍵の音しなかった?
Yeah. That was what it sounded like. We were too confused to move. There was no sign of anyone coming out. I slowly touched the doorknob. It turned. The door was unlocked. How? As if guided by all the strange things that were happening, I pushed the record button on my smartphone. I gripped the doorknob tighter. A voice in my mind told me to stop, to go back, but was wiped out by the sound of the smartphone recording and starting and the door slowly opening. The more it opened, the less I was able to ignore my curiosity. It felt like something besides Serica was pushing me forward as I opened the door. That song was playing in the dimly lit room. And the lights were off, but the sun outside was streaming through the open window. Its light was very weak. The curtain in front of me, which partitioned off a part of the room, was blocking the light. I gulped and realized my lips were dry. I ran my tongue over them to wet them a little. Then I realized my heart was pounding. The sound was so loud I thought my heart might have somehow moved up into my ears. It seemed to be beating out some bizarre rhythm, and it was making me sick. I forced myself to swallow my saliva and hoped it would keep me from throwing up. Then I took a slow step forward. I held up my phone to record what I was seeing, and then I realized something. That curtain wasn't partitioning the room. It was a bed. There was a raised spot off the floor with a circular bed, surrounded by a curtain. The light was streaming out from behind it. The windows we'd seen on the other side of it, and the song seemed to be coming from there as well. Crap. It was too dark. I went to flip the nearby light switch, then forced myself to stop. No. I couldn't touch anything in the room. Some kind of crime must have taken place here. But I was scared to go any deeper into the darkness. My shoes made my steps loud against the floor. There was no response. Only the relaxed melody. I gave a signal to Serica, who was still behind me, and went deeper into the room. What? For a moment, I thought I heard the sound of creaking metal. It felt like I was hearing it between the gaps in the music box's melody. But there was no change that I could see. No one jumped out. Nothing was moving. There was just the sound of the music box. I looked from one part of the room to the other to make sure nothing was amiss. And then I slowly moved forward. Oh shit. Someone was lying on the floor. When my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I saw a police officer and a woman. The officer was lying up against the bathroom with his legs splayed and his head drooping. The girl was lying on the floor face down. They showed no sign of noticing us. No, that wasn't right. The glass behind them was shattered into 1,000 pieces. Crap. The second I understood what was going on, the hand holding the smartphone started to shake. Crap, crap, crap! I could see little blood dripping off the police officer's head. I spun around as I heard that sound. The warmth drained from my face in an instant, and my whole body shivered. Someone was sitting on the bed. I staggered back and slammed into Serica. Let's get out of here, now! But I couldn't move. My hand was frozen as it pointed the smartphone toward whoever was behind the curtain, and it wasn't doing what I told it. Damn it! I took a step back, tripped, and then fell to the floor. My lungs weren't working right. The silhouette moved a little, and I flinched. No, it didn't move. The bed was rotating. Whoever was behind that curtain showed no signs of noticing us. They didn't budge an inch. What the hell is going on here? Oh shit. Serica's voice sounded like it was far away. I ran back to the entrance and slammed myself into the door. It wasn't opening. It wasn't opening. Why won't it open? Sarika yelled back at me. Sarika screamed as she slammed against the door. I helped her try to batter it down, pardon me. But it didn't work. It was like trying to batter down a wall. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. I reflexively jumped away without thinking. Oh, damn, it's the same knock from earlier. It was coming from this door. The knocking was rhythmic and constant. It was just a knock at the door. My whole body started to shake. Someone was on the other side of the door. Someone was knocking. It definitely wasn't the police. I felt as if my sanity was boiling away, melting out from the soles of my feet upward. No. No. Don't open that door. Right. Get out the back. Let's use the window. I grabbed Sarika's hand and ran to the back of the room. And fell silent at what I saw. Huh? What was that? The curtain was open. There was a man there, sitting. No, he was moving slowly. The bed was moving in time with the sound of the music box. An eerie sound came from the wire wrapped around his neck. Ah! The wire was hanging down from the ceiling, choking him. His face was all puffed up, and a color I'd never seen before. His pants were wet, and the stain extended to the bed itself. The smell of piss and shit hung in my nose. Ew. He wasn't alive. He was dead. What the hell is this? Why was he dead? Did he suffocate? Why was this curtain open? What the hell was he doing? Why was he dead? My right hand moved without me realizing it. Huh? I needed to use the window to escape. But I pointed my phone's camera at the body instead. The body spun, slowly. Each time it went around, the wire made an awful sound that dug deeper into his neck. It dug so deep that now the man's neck was the size of my wrist. The skin must have been broken because it was bleeding a little. What am I doing? Sarika was right next to me, but her voice sounded far away, like she was talking through a telephone. I needed to get out of there, but I couldn't stop the filming. Why was I doing this? Why was he dead? He's left this mortal coil. This is an ex-person. The wire dug deeper and deeper into his neck without waiting for me to come up with an answer. The body turned away from me. I could see the back of his neck. The flesh around the wire was swollen red and black. I heard a muffled sound like something hard snapping inside of a bag. Then the head slumped just a little. His neck had just broken. Oh my goodness, this is creepy. That must have been the sound of the neck breaking. I could hear Sarika's voice. Get out of here? Get out of here. That's right. I need to get out of here. My body moved as I heard another sound. I spun around. Oh, damn. Ugh. I screamed. Ah! And then I heard something from behind me. I don't know what I did, but the next thing I knew, my whole field of vision had turned red. Then I felt something like a ball hit me. Before I could understand what it was, everything faded to black. September 30th, 2015, Wednesday. midnight.
新庄さん、所持品と防犯カメラの映像から親族に裏取れました。死亡したのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住のフリーターで更新でマーケティングのアルバイトをしていたようです。
更新でバイト？恋人は？
いません。同居人もなし。一人暮らしだったようです。
くそ。
Who's single and not in a relationship, it would take time to figure out his private life. Mikoshi was one of the companies that had profited from most recovery projects in recent years. Part-timer or not, if he worked there, he was probably pretty busy. Possible his code networkers knew just his name and nothing else about who he was aside from work.
信者さん、マスコミへの対応どうしますか？海読みテレビやニコニアのネット記者が引き下がらなくて。
それから現場にいた例の子たちですが、壁表の新聞部と言っていた2人、状態は落ち着いたみたいなんですが、やはりところどころ要領を得ません。もう一人の女の子も身元を示すものを何も持っていなく、柿田の交友関係、親戚筋から洗っていますが、まだ当たりません。こっちは完全黙秘です。
あと、先ほど検視の方から問い合わせが。
待て、勝手に。
ニコニアニュースの渡部です。すいません、一体何が起こって。
出て行け、許可なく入るな。
一言お願いします。
Shinjo's men physically dragged the reporter out of the room. He had to stop himself from putting his hands on his head and moaning. He couldn't let his men see him acting weak. Shinjo had been with Police HQ Section 1 for less than 7 years. He didn't get along with his superiors, but he'd managed to beg his way into being in charge of this case. Maybe this was a way of avenging the death of an older detective who he had admired. Is he a main character? Let's find out. Sound. No, he is not. Maybe he is. Maybe he's one of the ones that we haven't seen yet.
窓枠の鑑識が終わったらすぐに外から見えないようにしといてくれ。あのネット記者は最近何するかわからん。
はい。
検視は俺が直接対応する。それから会社の仕事周りへの人数を増やしてくれ。上には後で俺から言っておく。
はい。それで例の子たちは？
それも俺が持つ。じゃよろしく頼む。
はい。
Oh, I should have been the detective. Aw, he's been raced out of the room. They never had a case like this before, and they probably were pretty excited. So was Shinjo, to be honest. This whole thing was such a mess that he didn't even know where to begin. But his detective instincts were screaming at him to start doing the work needed to find the killer.
Yosh.
You see if he's got a voice on that page yet. Nope. Maybe he's one of these guys. Or him. Oh well. Oh, let's go for my controller. That's awesome. His call was answered on the first ring, like always.
俺です。あ、すいません。
Shinjo apologized without thinking, and for no clear reason. He always felt like a naughty child when he spoke to the CEO, who happened to be a woman.
Senpaiの性格まで見習うつもりはありませんよ。百瀬さん、そんなことより相談したいことがあるんです。
Shinjo cut her off before she could continue her lecture and gave her a brief description of the scene. This was a violation of the rules, but the only way to solve a crazy case was to be a little crazy yourself. That was the first thing he'd learned from that older detective. Momose asked her question after he described the situation. She cut to the heart of the problem.
現状ではそれがわからないんです。
The hotel had gotten suspicious when Kakita had come over down sometime. Checkout time. More than 10 calls to the room went unanswered. They'd contacted the police. 2 officers, as well as someone from the hotel, had gone into the room, and the body had found the body in an unconscious girl. One officer stayed at the scene to keep it secure, and the other searched the hotel to make sure it was safe. During the search, he'd forgotten to lock the employee entrance in the back near the stairs. That was how the 2 students from Hekiho had gotten in. Shortly after he'd left the room, the girl woke up and started strangling the officer who'd stayed. He'd hit his head on the edge of the glass window and knocked himself out. He was going to be fine, but he'd been out cold until backup arrived. When the backup got there, they found the girl unconscious on the floor. A boy from Hekiho was passed out on the floor too. The other girl from Hekiho was throwing up, also on the floor. So basically everybody was on the floor. Kakita's cause of death was asphyxia via strangulation. The wire around his neck was a kind used at construction sites. It had been hung in an X pattern from the lights on the ceiling. And he'd been sitting on the bed as it rotated. That's why there was so much pressure on his neck. That finally his head had been severed. Okay, that doesn't make much sense in translation, but okay. The estimated time of death, Kakita had passed away before the police had even been contacted. The body on the bed kept spinning in time to the music, 1 rotation every 2 minutes. In the end, the man's head had been cut off completely. The problem was the girl in the room. There was no indication that she'd ever touched Kakita. There were no fingerprints or any other signs that she'd touched Kakita's body, or the bed, or the wire. The only things they'd found under her fingernails were skin and blood from the officer she'd strangled. In fact, there was no indication she touched much of anything in the room. Everything they found belonged to Kakita. And according to the officer she'd strangled, when she'd attacked him, she'd clearly been in an unstable psychological state. Her eyes were bloodshot and out of focus. Shinjo scratched his head as he heard her sum up the situation. That was what it looked like, at least from what they knew right now. And just going by that, it sure looked like a suicide. But it was all far too strange.
Shock が大きかったようで、最初は何も喋らなかったんですが、今は少しずつ話し始めています。ですが、いろいろと問題のある壁法の子ですから。
He checked with the school and verified that they were part of the school's newspaper club. The security camera at the rear entrance had seen them coming in, which matched their testimony. But he didn't know what to make of their testimony that the door opened on its own, but that someone else had tried to come into the room. The door was equipped with an automatic lock. The only person inside the room who could have opened it was that girl. There was no sign of her fingerprints on the door. And the security camera in the hallway showed no signs of anyone else trying to go in. In any event, it was extremely rare for a civilian to see a dead body outside of a funeral. And in an unstable mental state, it was extremely easy to imagine things just outright being mistaken about what's going on. They turned out not to have any relationship to Kakita or the girl. He planned on letting them off with a stern warning.
結局のところ、一番大きな手がかりは部屋に潜んでいたその子なんですが、何も喋りません。そのままだと非感知。はい。そうなると大幅に捜査が遅れることになるので、そうしたくないんです。若かな。ちょっと情報を回させてちょうだい。多分新庄ちゃんの立場的に無理してもらうことになるから覚悟はしといてね。3分後にこっちからかけてますから。あ、助かります。よろしくお願いします。
Shinjo went to hang up the phone.
ちょっと。はい。そういえばお願いがあるのよ。絶対に新庄ちゃんのためにもなることなんだけど、聞いてくれないかしら。
It was basically an order then. Shinjo thought to himself.
何ですか？
この件に関して私より詳しいうちの子が一人いるんだ。それで今回の現場を直接見たいって言ってるんだけど、お願いできない？
部外者を現場に？
いつだって物事を解決するヒントを与えるのは部外者よ。
After all, I'm an outsider too, she continued. In his head, Shinjo went over to the steps he'd have to take and the time required to take them.
明日、いや、明後日で構いませんか？
さすが新庄ちゃん、話せるじゃない。よくそれで堅物揃いの捜査一課に残れてるわね。
ではよろしくお願いします。
ちょっと新庄ちゃん。
He barely stopped himself from ending the call. Oh, let's not do auto anymore. Okay.
まだ何か？
念のためアドバイスをしとこうと思って2つね。言っておくけど、さっきのは冗談じゃないのよ。
は？
チャランポランで行きなさいっていうやつよ。これから間違いなく新庄ちゃんの理解の外にある事件が続くわよ。その時一番邪魔になるのは常識だから気をつけなさいな。
肝に銘じます。
そこで真面目に返事しているようではまだまだね。もう一つはね。
For a second and chuckled. Sorry.
うちの子に取って食われないようにね。油断してると新庄ちゃんが部外者になりかねないわよ。
Wednesday.
なあ、ツイポ見た？
Tweeter.
ああ、壁砲ボットのネタ画像でしょ。でっかいウーパがドヤ顔して
ウーパーズ
光を座って渋谷も変わったとか言ってる。
そうそう、めっちゃ切なそうなの。あれさ、文化祭で使わねえ？渋谷復興の歴史の展示なんてどうせ誰も見ねえじゃん。
Forgot Upas were in this one. I know they're in Steins Gate.
画像だけじゃ弱くない？なんかぬいぐるみとか実際に置かないと。
A male student started to search through the Shibuya stores with his smartphone. Must have found something strange because he kept mumbling, "No way!" Ito was recording the newspaper club's project for the festival. A bunch of random footage of preparations in the cafeteria.
そんなもんで盛り上がってる場合かっての。
Body had just been found in Dogenzaki yesterday, and all these students cared about was their stupid jokes. The body was found less than 10 minutes away from the school, but they barely even mentioned it.
ま、確かにまだ大掛かりには報道されてないけどさ。
The first reports had been on a major communication company's website. That was where Ito had seen it. It had been last night. It had made the morning news in the morning papers, but all that had been reported was that the body had found, and that no details were known. And it was rare for a high school kid to check the TV news and papers every day. There was no word from Miyashiro. Ito was really worried about what had happened at the Love Hotel, but he had no way of asking about it. Oh yeah, I was Miyashiro. That's who I was. He took out his phone, and even though he knew he hadn't gotten any calls, sure enough, there were no messages. He'd been doing that a lot since yesterday. He couldn't bring himself to make a call. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say to a friend who'd been taken away by the police. The laughing students irritated Ito in a way that he didn't really understand. He'd been planning on videotaping the entire cafeteria today, but instead he gave up and left. Blarf. He went inside the club room and saw Kurusu was there.
連絡は
Kurusu's expression clouded for a moment as she shook her head.
あれからは何も。
そっか。
Wakui, the club advisor, had told him that Kurusu had taken a change of clothes from Miyashiro to the police station last night. She'd been told that neither Miyashiro nor Onoe were hurt. The police were probably going to let them off with a warning, and if they weren't suffering any after effects from the trauma, they'd be let go in the morning. But school was over. It was almost evening, and there was no word from either of them. Ito dropped into his chair.
たく、学校のみんなは平和なもんだよ。昨日のことなんてほとんど誰も話してないんだぞ。
そう。
そりゃあ東京じゃ発表されてるだけでほぼ1週間に2人のペースで誰かが殺されてるんだから、変死体があったってだけじゃ別に真新しくもないけどさ。にしたってな、道玄坂なんてもろ近所じゃん。下手したらそこを通って登校してるやつもいるかもしれないってのに。つかいるだろ、うちなら。あれかな、あいつがいつも言ってるみたいに社会に関するニュースを載せてるサイトとかにアクセスしないやつばっかりなのかな。
わかりやすいね。
Kurusu chuckled. Oh, never mind.
心配なんでしょ、二人のこと。
Ito started to speak, but then choked it back.
別に副部長こそ心配なんじゃないの？
Ridiculous, she chuckled.
怒ってる。処置なしだもの。セリカはともかくとしてね。忠告も聞かずに突っ込んで無茶するからこんなことになる。伊藤君にも新聞部の文化祭の映像押し付けることになるし。
いや別にそれは大したことないからいいんだけどさ。
ダメ、与えられた役割はきっちりこなすのが当たり前でしょ。
ここか。クルス、予算の件どうなってる？
Kawahara appeared. He was very out of breath. Oh, what the hell is this?
予算？
超過した予算をまとめたやつ。経理がまだかって。
Kurusu frowned as she realized her mistake.
ごめん、すぐにメールでまとめて送るから。
なるはやで担当の教師が帰っちゃう前に。
Kawahara ran off before Kurusu had time to answer. And before he was even out of sight, Kurusu had booted up the PC and started to tap the keys.
何？
いや別に。
I'm gonna take a break from this because my throat's starting to kill me. Sorry about that, but I really am enjoying this game. Hope you're enjoying it too, whoever watches. Squish. Squish. Return to title. Oh no, I gotta stop. Squishy.